More to talk about still. Let's bring in Kyron Skinner. She is a research fellow at the Hoover Institute at Stanford and served on President Trump's National Security Council transition team. Good to see you, Kyron.
Thanks for having me.
Do you believe the deputy foreign minister there when he says this really could be the start of more to come? What potentially is in the arsenal of Russia?
I'm not exactly sure what the Russians plan to do. This retaliation is exactly that. It's a punitive measure against the United States because the U.S. Congress has taken a substantive, not a punitive, but a substantive act of imposing sanctions on Russia and other countries that are working against the national interest of Americans. So I think there's a really, when you look at it, there's a mismatch in behavior. I think what Congress did, whether the president agrees or others agree, it asserted its Article 1 authority under the Constitution. It is the first branch of government. It acted as so. And I think the president will work well with Congress on this and other related issues because the Congress has made its preference clear.
So how potentially might this hurt U.S. interests or work? That 750 personnel, largely working with U.S. diplomatic efforts, would be asked to leave or forced to leave by September 1.
I don't think it's a good move at all because not only does the U.S. have a robust embassy in Moscow, it has 3 consulates throughout Russia as well, with Americans working very hard from the Foreign Service and others on behalf of U.S. interest in the region and in the country. So I do think that it will hurt the ability of those left to get their work done, but we have an incredibly disciplined and committed Foreign Service and American Service Corps. So I do believe our work will continue. But I think it complicates U.S.-Russia relations in some very specific ways. President Trump, I think, is coming to grips with the fact that we're in the 21st century and foreign policy is incredibly difficult in this new century in ways that we aren't really prepared for. Both President George W. Bush and President Obama grappled with the difficulties of Russia and China and other great powers. And I think he realizes that he needs Russia and he needs China to resolve Syria and Ukraine and other crises, but it's not easy dealing with great powers who have divergent interests.
Is this Putin sending salvo before, as we understand, the president, has actually signed that proposal? Is this Putin saying, before you sign that, give it another thought because we're about to expel 755 of your people that you need?
If it is, I hope that the U.S. administration would not respond the way that Vladimir Putin would want the U.S. to respond because, in fact, I think Congress has spoken.
So you think the president will still sign?
I do, and I don't have, Frederica, I don't have inside knowledge on this point, but to me, I think the president should sign and will sign because what Congress has done is actually consistent with much of what he said in the campaign and in the early months of his administration. He does want a clear, coherent foreign policy. The personnel changes have made it somewhat difficult, but I don't think this is inconsistent with where he has sought to go dealing with Russia.
Russia still wants access to its compounds in New York and Maryland. Yes. That access removed during the Obama administration. Do you think that the president has made up his mind definitively that he would not return that?
I don't know, and I would not want to speculate on air without knowledge of those deliberations, and I'm not part of them.
All right, Kyron Skinner, thanks so much. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right.